From the Fathead Studio in Speedway, Indiana, this is The Skinny.
Maybe I need to start in the trash truck business.
Don't rule it out.
So my body holds about 11 units of blood, the average human body, guy my size, and I had 22 units put in because I had 2 full oil changes.
He's airborne, and then I'm above him.
Inverted.
All at the same time. Yeah, you're just like, wow, that's a wild picture.
Boom, and then it goes boom, and it goes back out.
I hang up on the guy. I go, who's this? This is Deion Sanders. I go, yeah, nice try. See you later.
Bounce and then this insane roll. That thing sent it.
No. It's okay, you know, we come back. They just do it.
Man, am I still pretty? And he's like, you ain't pretty, but you're going to be all right.
If I was a few years older, you might be calling me Grandpappy. That's like, all right.
Hi, I'm Tony Stewart.
I'm Scott Dixon.
I'm Mario Andretti.
I'm Christy Lee.
I'm Travis Pastrana.
Hey, I'm Antron Brown.
I'm Jimmy Prock.
I'm Thomas Prock. I'm Austin Prock. And this is The Skinny.
We're already having a great time here on The Skinny. We've got an incredible show coming your way. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Fatheads Eyewear Studios. We're in Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm Ken Stout. Sitting right alongside is the guy that put all of this together. His name is Rico Elmore. Running the controls is the track dude.
Slow down. It's a lot going on.
Michael Young, and he is absolutely maxed out because we have a full set here. Go to the 3-shot, Michael. Can you find it?
There they
We've
are.
got the Procks on the show with us. Legendary tuner Jimmy Prock is the father of Thomas Prock, sitting right alongside engineer extraordinaire, and then some kid named Austin Prock who thinks he's going to be a driver one day, and apparently is making some pretty big noise here in 2024. Thanks for coming on the show, fellas.
Thank you. Thanks for having
Glad
us.
to be here. Yeah, cool stuff, man. Damn. Austin, you're killing it. Hey, before I go down this road with you, I dug something up, but I couldn't verify it, so I want to ask the people that can. Rumor is, or what I read was, you're a 4th-generation driver. I knew you were a 3rd, obviously, your grandfather Tom, but 4th-generation driver. Your great-grandfather, Jimmy, ran in the 1930 Indianapolis 500?
As a ride-on mechanic.
As a ride-on mechanic. That's why I couldn't verify it, because they said he finished 10th at the 1930 Indy 500. I'm like, I see no Jimmy Prock there.
Yeah.
But is that where you got your name from, Jimmy?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, it's my grandfather. When my dad's gone down in the archives and dug out pictures of my grandfather and Chester Miller, and they actually have his name spelled wrong on the picture. They call him Brock, but it's definitely my grandfather.
Yeah.
You can sort it out. Straighten that place out over there.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I heard, I've not seen it. Have you been in it yet? But they're redoing that museum.
I have not, but Mario Andretti, when he was here, they had him in to look around at kind of what they were doing. He said it'll be the most interactive place that he's ever seen, like motorsports.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. So
That is super
and for
cool.
him to say that, it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
So your great-grandfather was a ride-on mechanic.
Yeah. And then he also raced midgets back in the 30s and 40s as well. So he was a driver, and then just like my grandfather, he was a crew chief and a driver. My great-grandfather was the same. So that's kind of why growing up, I kind of wanted to go circle track racing, because I knew my great-grandfather did it, and it was just kind of something different than the first, or, the later generation. So ended up going circle track racing, but been lucky enough to do both drag race and circle track.
You got pulled to the dark side.
Yeah. Everyone always told me I was going to end up there, but I never believed them, and they sure were right. So.
That's pretty cool, man. I mean, I was going to ask if there was any relationship or involvement there. I really didn't think there would be, to be honest with you. But for you to say that you knew your grandfather did it, and you kind of wanted to go down that path, and that's pretty awesome. Did your father have any involvement in track racing?
No. He just he started street racing in Detroit, hopping up his mom's car, stuff like that. And he actually worked at the Logie Stamping Company, and they actually built the hot rods and funny cars, some of the first funny cars. And he raced Willys, like a 33 Willys, I think.
He was really more of a gasser racer, right?
Yeah. He did that first. I think he raced a Pontiac. I mean, I was only 3-4 years old. He raced that. Then he raced Willie's car, and that's when they started putting nitro in them. And they ran 30% nitro in them. And then once he didn't do that anymore, then he went funny car racing, raced with Al Bergler out of Mount Clemens. He went to Utica, New York, and ran with the Castronovo brothers, the Utica Flash, out of the custom auto body shop. Freddie owned a body shop in Utica, New York. And then he had his own funny car in Detroit for a couple years. That's when I actually started going to the races, you know, full time in the summers, like back in like 1977. So, and then after that was over, the match race stuff was kind of drying up, and my dad went to work for Tom McEwen.
Yeah, I read in there you were about 11 years old. You were kind of getting your feet wet, digging around, kicking around in the shop, and helping Dad out a little bit, turning wrenches, and then yeah, your career kind of took off. You started playing around with some pretty big names.
Yeah, I was fortunate. I was around, you know, back in the day. Everybody hung out, traveled down the road together. You know, used to hang out. My dad and McEwen were friends. Perdomo was around, the Blue Max guys, Gary Bergen, just, you know, lots of racers back then, Tom Anderson, but there was all that stuff back in the 70s and 80s. That's what I grew up around, you know, and I just...
Were you on Bernstein's car for a bit?
Yeah, I worked on Bernstein's car in like 1988, I think, maybe 87, 88. Back then, I worked with Armstrong. I was a screw guy on Armstrong's car, you know, back in the day for a year or two. I worked for Dick LaHaye. I worked for Scott Coletta for a year. Before I got my first real crew chief job was with Corey Mack. Like I started like in Maple Grove in 91 or something.
And you guys
like
almost
that.
won the championship that year.
The next year, 91, I started like at Reading. And I finished out whatever. We might have run 3 races that year, and then we went over the winter and regrouped. In 92, we finished second to Joe by what's equivalent of less than a round today.
Amazing stuff. We have some incredible individuals on the show with us here this week, and Jimmy and his 2 sons, of course, Thomas and Austin. So stay with us. This one's going to be a wild ride.
At first, we were going to be, we'll just run her down there and shut it off and let him get used to it. Well, the first time it went to the lights, it ran like 84 at 336.
The Skinny is brought to you by Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since '04. And American Coach. Innovation is our life force.
Welcome back to the Skinny and the Fatheads Eyewear studio. The one driver in the bunch was just engineering all of us, by the way, while we were at commercial break, telling us about our soundproofing, deadening walls and what angle they should be at. He's the driver. Imagine the 2 smart guys. I mean,
yeah. I'm always ears open.
Dangerous.
Great stuff. If you're not up to speed on Austin Prock, of course, he spent some time in Dragster and Top Fuel and was very successful, did a very, very nice job. However, that pales in comparison to what he has done here so far this year. He has stepped inside of the Nitro Funny Car. Unfortunately, Robert Height not able to continue. It opened up the door for you. You took full advantage of it. As of the recording of this show, they've completed 8 races. Of those 8 races, he's qualified number 1 6 times. He's been to the final 5 times. He's won 2 of those. He beat the boss in the very first race of the year, the Gator Nationals, put him in the box. That had to be a special moment. Of course, the boss came back and fed him one back in the final. So final round, just to feed one back to you, that was pretty cool. And I find it also amusing that your very first final, I think it was your first final against J.R. Todd at the Gators, you lost. And then at Bristol, your latest race, you were able to feed one back to him.
Yeah, no, that definitely felt good. But you also forgot we won $250,000 at the beginning of the year, Bradenton Motorsports Park.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
that was the very first one, wasn't it?
Yeah, first competition race in Nitro Funny Car, and we ended up
let's go out and do this.
$250,000 and a big old trophy. We were number 1 qualifier there as well. So yeah, it's been an amazing year.
So 9 races, 6 finals, 3 wins.
yeah, but we can't count that one because it's not NHRA. But just had to get that out.
Oh, I think it counts.
Yeah,
it might not count towards your NHRA record, but it still counts. pretty cool. What do you think, Pops? Do you think you'd had that type of success stepping in?
Well, I don't know. I always look at it like we're doing our job, and I felt Austin could drive the car. I mean, I thought it would take him a little bit of a time to adjust to it, and it has. He did good in the beginning, but I think, as time's gone on here, he's improving and learning more about it and getting a little more confidence and all that. And, we've had the car running good, and, we had to adjust it around some. When we went to Bradenton, we were like, okay, we're not changing anything because he's going to get in it, and, we can get our pencils out and everything and try to guess what, make some kind of guesstimation of how it's going to affect how the car runs with the weight difference and balance and all that. And so we went out in Bradenton, and the track was a little challenging in the beginning, and we've only made it, we went 7 times and never went more than 60 feet. So we were up till about 1 a.m. on, I don't know, the day before
Wednesday night.
On Wednesday night, and we had to qualify on Thursday, and that was
no pressure.
So we were
take her out there.
We were just going over everything. We figured out some stuff with the racetrack, and then we just had to come up with a plan. And I was laying in bed Wednesday night, and I woke up at about 4 a.m., I think. And I was like, okay, well, we thought about it. I said, this is what we're going to go try. And we went out there and changed the car, and it went down the track. That day we ran his first run. At first we were going to be, we'll just run her down there and shut it off and let him get used to it. Well, the first time it went to the lights, it ran like 84 at 336. Because we were on a run. We didn't have any, it was time to go.
In his defense, he had been quicker.
Yeah. No.
I think it ran at 291 to the 8 mile, which is like fast in a top fuel car. Right.
In his defense, I mean, that's how I felt. Like, okay, he's driven a top fuel car, and this thing's obviously different, but it isn't going to go any quicker than that thing. So, but he handled it well and got her down there.
Want to get the skinny on other guests and different types of motorsports? Check out our YouTube page and get the skinny.
Once again, we welcome you back here to the Skinny. We have Jimmy Prock, legendary tuner, here in the studio with us. His son, Thomas. We've not heard too much from him. We will certainly touch base with him. And, of course, Austin as well. Thomas is a quiet one, the engineering type, and following in the footsteps of his father, if you will. But the credentials are pretty high. You spent, you came out, was it IUPUI you went to school at? And then you spent some time with Stuart Haas, correct, on the NASCAR side before you morphed over here.
Yeah, I did 3 years there. I started out as a design engineer. And when I went down to Charlotte to work, it was like I was blown away at how impressive the NASCAR teams were and all the people. I felt like I was this big, just really small, smart people. And then after I spent a year doing that, I got an opportunity to work on the 14 Cup car as an engineer. And I handled most of the things at the shop, and we built cars every week. So every week we were building a new race car. So there's a lot of logistics to keep up with. And then I helped them with pit strategy and stuff on the weekends. So it was really neat. It was like going to school again. Going there was impressive, and I felt like when I left there, I could come to drag racing maybe and give a few things back that I learned in NASCAR. And now we're here and we're doing what we're doing.
When you started showing up at the NHRA stuff and like showing up seriously, I was like, this is cool. Like you were coming over from, that side of things back over here and, over to this side. And I've listened to you and I've watched some of the stuff, a total different approach to it.
Yeah, no, like I said, I've just been fortunate. I've been around so much different kinds of racing, sprint car racing, even with Tony. Prior to this, when we raced our midget and everything, we got the luxury of being around the best guys in the world of outlaws and non-wing cars and everything. And then going down there and learning, maybe more like a physics approach to things. So when I came back, obviously I'd always talk to my dad a lot about what they deal with and their racing and everything. So it was kind of like connecting the dots a little bit and trying to find some way to maybe help forecast some things that could happen and make better decisions before we put it on the racetrack.
Super cool. I want to know how did the relationship develop for you to get that job at Stewart Haas? Was it Zippy that hired you?
No, actually, I met Slugger Labby. He works at TRD and
Sure.
did, still does. At
He
the
hung
time.
us out last week. I remember that.
Yeah, another guy.
He's a good guy.
I did get to go to dinner with him, which was entertaining, but he did not make it here.
So I gave him my resume and he handed it out to a bunch of teams, and then I just started getting phone calls, and all of a sudden people were calling me and they're like, when can you come here and we'd like to meet you and interview you? Well, I had about 5 job interviews lined up, and I flew to Charlotte for 2 days and I did them all and went to all these shops. I went to Penske, Stewart Haas, all kinds of places, Roush Fenway, and I left with a couple job opportunities, and then I had to pick one, which was a really hard thing to do because I'd never had to do anything like that in my life. So, but yeah, I think I made the right choice. Like when I went to Stewart Haas, I just felt comfortable and all the people were really cool. And, so it was one of the best things I've ever done.
That had to be a proud papa moment for you. I mean, that level of racing.
for sure. And like you said, he learned a lot. You're around a place like that, gives you a lot of opportunities. If you want to learn and be involved when you're around stuff like that, you get to see a lot of things, and you can soak it in and learn from it. It teaches you a lot. Like you always want to be around people that are smarter than you are.
Yeah, be a sponge.
I mean,
How cool is it to have your son show up at John Force Racing and come up with some things that maybe you never thought of?
yeah, no, I mean, we've talked about stuff, when Chris moved, I had talked to him about it, but when Chris moved on to, run Austin's dragster, because Chris Cunningham been with me, and we needed a crew chief for Austin's car that year. And they're like, well, Chris is plenty capable of doing this, and we don't need 2 of us here, to help our company on a whole. We could split us up, right? Well, then, I would have had to hire somebody, and I thought, I got together. I said, well, I think I'd like to hire Thomas. I said, because 1, he wants to do it. 2, you gotta work hard. And 3, you've got some engineering, you got some ability that he can bring to us that possibly, if we work on things and use it properly, maybe, he can help make us better. And we're just developing people for down the road for our company. We need younger people doing it. I love doing this and I can keep going, but I can't do it forever. You know what I mean? I'm on the backside of the journey.
Seen a couple of walkers out there on the way. Like, you got a future in this.
Yeah.
It's like I told Tony, I said, you're getting involved in this at the right time. You got 30 good years left.
Yeah, John's still going strong. All part of John Force Racing here, all 3 of them. And of course, we'll have some more with them when we come back.
When we put our helmets on, let's just race. I don't give 2 craps about what you do when, I'm in the other lane. I said, race me how you would race everyone else.
You are looking at the Procks. That is Jimmy, Thomas, and Austin, all part of John Force Racing. Of course, Jimmy's been with them for a long, long time. A little segue in there with DSR for a minute, but I want to say it was about a 14-year span whenever you went to work for John, and you guys won some championships, a ton of races. Was it, I think, 2015, 16, you were at DSR?
Yeah.
But I want to talk about the phone call that happened from John to get you guys back together, because as I was doing some homework, I just want to verify this is correct, but it seemed to me that he picked up the phone, wanted to bring you back, but that was also at a time, 2017, where Thomas came on board and Austin came on board. It wasn't one Prock coming back, it was the family.
Yeah. I mean, when John approached me to come back over there, he talked about giving Austin an opportunity to drive, and, Thomas could work there. If in the shop. Like Thomas worked in the shop actually there. When we went back, he went back and he worked in the machine shop and, you know, did design work and helped build stuff there and engineering stuff. And then Force was going to groom Austin to, you know, drive a race car. And, you know, and that's one of the reasons I went back there. But yeah, that's pretty much how it went in 17.
That's a pretty cool phone call, man.
Yeah, no, it was, you know, I've spent obviously, well, I mean, I started working with Force in 2001. So it's 2024 and I've been there every year, but 2. So spent a lot of time there.
I remember when you left, it's like, what the hell's going on here? Like, I mean, I was just blown away because it was like, you know, there's staples in places and you just don't see those staples moving and you know, and it was pretty wild. And then, you know, then you were back and it was pretty awesome. But yeah, John is, you know, the little I've got to know him, but he's done so much for the sport and watching him make that impromptu announcement about Austin was I don't think any more surprising to anybody but this guy, to Austin more than anybody. You know, yes, it's always been a thought, an idea, a talk, but man, when that happened, I was like looking at Austin. He's like, holding the wall. He's like, all right, I'm out of here. Like, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I got to get out of here now.
Well, what I read, the quote I read was, you kind of whispered to yourself, you said, oh, you weren't supposed to say that. But so for the fans at home, let's fill them in. If you're not up to speed on it, tell us what the announcement was.
Yeah, so when I got hired there in 2017, the plan was always when I got my opportunity, I was going to replace John. Well, he said 1 to 3 years, and that was in 2017. So obviously he's still in the seat, but there's always been talk about me replacing him. And when we raced each other in the final in Epping, he got on the camera and announced it to the public, which was always a big no-no, as I understood. But I guess the boss, he can do whatever he wanted. And everybody took it really well. I mean, obviously some of the sponsors were surprised when they heard it. But everyone's, you know, I think taking a liking to me this year. My dad and brother and Nick Hildahl have really been making me look good this year, and it's really boosting my career, I feel like. So the fans have been accepting to it, and one day, I don't want to see him get out of the seat, but when he does, I'll be ready to take it over.
He's still getting it done, man. He put a light on you.
Yeah, he just rolled in now. Come on, you got to have the stage.
Not the top ball out on you. Like, man, I mean, he's not pulling any punches.
Yeah. No, I told him we had to race each other second round in Bradenton, my first ever race. And he came up to me and he was all wigged out. I'm going to stay shallow against you. I ain't going to play no games. And I'm like, John, I said, when we put our helmets on, let's just race. I don't give 2 craps about what you do when, you know, I'm in the other lane. I said, race me how you would race everyone else, because I know you want to beat me as bad as I want to beat you. So let's go up there and have some fun. I ain't going to hold no grudges. I wouldn't even have the opportunity if he wasn't for him. So if he wants to hang me out for 7 seconds, so be it. You know, I'm just happy to be here, and I'll try my best to be on. Like,
I read
Thomas and Jimmy, like, hello there.
I read one quote where you guys were going to race in the final round, and he said, "Are you ready?" And you said, "Yeah, I'm ready to kick your ass."
Yeah, and he rifled it right back to me. So yeah, it's good. Me and John are having a great time racing with each other this year. I haven't personally had this much fun racing, and I don't think he's had this much fun in a long time. So we are definitely good teammates for each other, and you can see how much success we've had, you know, and having good energy in the pits really goes a long way.
And it does. It seems like he's got we talked about that on Sunday, like a whole new deal. So
the young gun, Austin Prock, has breathed some life into that seasoned veteran, John Force. So it's been a lot of fun to watch. We have a lot more fun coming your way. Stay with us.
Force, 1 year to go to Indy, sold his TV to my dad.
The Skinny is brought to you by American Coach. American Coach, innovation is our life force. And Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since '04.
Welcome back to the Skinny. I'm Ken Stout. Mr. Rico Elmore is sitting right alongside. He's the mastermind behind this studio and the guy that got the Procks in the studio with us. Great to have Jimmy Thomas and Austin here, all three of them part of the John Force Racing team, talking about the success, obviously, that you've had this year. And Jimmy, you just brought it up while we were at commercial break. We were talking about John, and I don't want to twist this into a John Force Racing show, but I mean, how do you not talk about the guy at some level? He's 74, 75 years old. He's still cutting lights with the best of them. He's still driving a car over 330 miles an hour, winning races, 2 wins this year, second in the points. You're first in the points. That's an amazing effort out of this guy. I mean, he talked about stepping out of the car, but I mean, there's no reason for him to step out that I can see just yet, which blows my mind.
Yeah, no, he's done, John's done a good job this year. And I mean, we talked about it. I mean, their car was good last year. It was quick. This year, it's more consistent. It's quick, and John's been driving it good. He's been keeping in the groove, cutting good lights, and, they've been going rounds. They go up and down the track a lot. The car runs good, and John's been driving it good. And, we're 8 races in now, and, he's second in the points, and arguably had as good a car as anybody.
Impressive stuff. Now both of you are on Austin's car, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. That's a dream come true. I mean, what are the chances that comes together? By the way, I read something that's pretty cool. Tell me about why you have the number on your car that you have.
Yeah, that was my grandfather's licensing number when he drove funny car back in the 70s. So it's actually in the same exact font as which was on his custom body car. John let me do that as a little tribute to him. So my grandpa's definitely glad to see that number, on the side of that race car. Definitely makes
374. Yeah.
Yep.
The rate you're going, it might not be the same next year, but
yeah, I hope it's 1. Maybe we'll make it 374.
There, 1-374. There you go. That's super cool, man. The history behind you guys, the fact that the three of you are all on one car is astonishing. I mean, that alone is just a spectacular story. But the history and me learning about your great grandfather and so much together, man, what is it like at Thanksgiving at the Prock's house?
Oh, it's fun. I mean, it's cool.
Party.
We have a party. Dad comes over and has a few beers.
Yeah.
But, no, it's great. It's like I've been, like I said, I've been fortunate too. My dad took me under his wing and took me along when I was a kid, and I got to learn. I learned all this stuff, started with them, all the people that he hung around with back in the day and all that. And I managed to work for, some of the greatest people in the sport that have, run out here. And I got to learn my craft by, doing that. I went right out of high school and got on the road and got to work.
Yeah.
Turn right into a carny right out of the gate.
That was it. I was already doing it, but yeah, I don't think I was home one day after I graduated from high school.
Wow. What do you think you learned the most from?
Oh, I don't know. Like LaHaye was great. I was only there a year and a half with him, but he was just an old school racer. Guy didn't have much money. Same with Coyle. Like Coyle, Bernie, Medlin, I got to be in the, being able to work at Forces in the midst of all that, all the technology and everything they did. Forces, he's got to where he's at because, I mean, they came from nothing, like if I have a story, Force 1 year to go to Indy sold his TV to my dad. Like we were in Orange, California. He came over, he sold his TV, so he could go to Indy to have Bill Schultz to be his crew chief.
Is the TV worth that much?
Well, he just needed cash, I guess. But I've known John, that long. I grew up around all this. And, but I mean, being at Forces and being around Austin Coyle and Bernie Federley and John Medlin, being in the midst of all that, we did like lots of stuff. Back in the day, there was no rules. We didn't have limitations. We were just always working on stuff to be better, you know. And Austin Coyle, honestly, you know, is one of the smartest guys, self-taught engineer. You know, we didn't have computers, we didn't have anything. You know, we wanted to know how somewhere he'd send us to the store. We'd get poster board, cardboard, and glue, and we'd cut stuff out and like bend it together and bend it. And we did so many like I guess, I don't know if you'd call them crude things, but just ways that we proved over the years, like in the shop, twisting chassis. And one story, if you, I don't have time for it. So anyway, he wants to learn these cars are out there and we want to learn what they're doing. We go out, we get a 10-foot steel I-beam, we chain it to the short block, we put it in the car. We're going to simulate, you know, hang 17 cylinder heads, whatever the weight is, to simulate 3,000 foot-pounds of torque, put a bar through the rear end, hold it with a forklift, you know, put all the weight on, tack welding rod all over the frame just to watch where all moves and all this stuff. And then we go and add bar here, bar there, drag it to the track. You know, we got a bar in the bottom of the frame, and when it shakes, it breaks the frame up, you know, so it's cracking the, you know, mount on the frame. So then we put grade 5 bolts in it. So the next time it shook, all it did was snap the bolts out, and the bar fell into the tin. We'd come back, change the bolt, you know.
He gets behind the race car and he tells me if I'm good or not. And if I'm good, he'll go, perfect. I'm Austin Prock. Welcome back to the Skinny. I'm joined here with my brother Thomas and my father Jim Prock, and we're getting down to business.
That's it. I'm done. I'm out of here.
Coming for your job.
Finally, we
Be
got
careful
somebody.
what you wish for, my friend. It's great to have you guys here. All right, so here's the $1 million question everybody at home is saying. You know, we hear about the fun side, and this is great, and everybody's working together. I saw the interview after your last race here at Bristol. I would tell all the fans at home, Google that, watch the final round at Bristol, because that interview afterwards could not be any more energetic. It was pretty cool, but having all of that energy whenever things aren't going so smooth, what's that like? How many times have you got in somebody's face, or tempers are high, or if you'd have done what I told you to do, that wouldn't have happened?
Well, back in the day, often. This year, we haven't had too much struggle. So, but we all work really well together. Typically, I know I make a mistake before I get back to them, and I'd go up there, you know, and beg for mercy. You know, I rat myself out before they can rat me out. You know, and
Before the computer rats you out.
I figure that's a good way to do it.
So if you learned your lesson, there's no hiding anything you do. They see every single.
You can lie all you want, but that computer does not lie. So yeah, usually I try and tell them I made a mistake before they dive into anything. You know, communications goes a long way working with people, and I think we all respect our, you know, certain areas. I drive the car and they tune the car, and I don't tell them how to tune it, and they don't really tell me how to drive it unless I ask. So, but I'm always the first guy to ask for help. I've needed plenty of it this year. Laney McGlizzy, he's been a huge help of my success this year, getting the race car aimed right. I found out I was doing that wrong early on in the season, and really getting that dialed in.
Help us out. Explain. Elaborate on that.
So these funny cars, they leave so aggressively, typically with the front end up in the air. And you don't want to move. You don't want to really put much steering wheel input into it until the front end kind of settles back in and the car gets back up on the tire about 330 feet. So aiming the race car, because all of these race cars, they all have their own personality. So when you stand on the gas, our car, it plugs the right rear, and then when it stands up, it wants to go left. So if you line up straight, you're automatically going to be driving left, and then you're going to be putting steering input into it before the 330, which creates artificial drive shaft, I call it. So in this race car, I'll aim it a little from straight, a little bit right. So that way, when I stand on the gas, this thing gets up on the tire and it lands directly where I need it to. So I'm not moving the wheel and promoting drive shaft speed, which creates tire temp, which leads to tire smoke. So just trying to be smooth, be a machine, and get every, thousandths of a second of ET out of this race car for them.
So that wheel, when you put that much wheel, or I say that much wheel, I don't know how much wheel you're talking about putting in to bring it back straight, but that scrub from the front end creates enough drag to upset everything.
It starts to slip the rear of the car, and then when the clutch, if you do get it out of shape a little bit, when the clutch starts to come in and you try and bring it back this way, you're accelerating so fast you can't ever stop that. Yeah, I call it the pendulum effect. And you'll watch a lot of these cars go down the racetrack. They might be in the groove, but they kind of, wag all the way down. And that's started when you line that thing up staging. That's when the mistake was made, essentially, in most scenarios. So every run I make now, Lanny, he's been watching these race cars for 100 years, maybe longer in force. And he gets behind the race car and he tells me if I'm good or not. And if I'm good, he'll go, perfect. And I'll know I'm dialed in and ready to chop the tree
So
up.
race communication, you have radio then?
Yeah, I've never used a radio in my career before. This is the first season, and I actually really do enjoy it. I like listening to my dad and brother and Nate Hildahl, analyze the racetrack while I'm sitting back there. It's just kind of comforting and calming and, kind of gets me in the zone.
So who have you learned the most from?
My dad, for sure. I mean, he's taught me everything about a fuel car, really. I got to hang around, like he was talking about, like when I was a little young for Coyle, but like Medlin worked with him for a while, and John Medlin kind of made me want to pursue engineering, because I just thought if I could be a really good racer like my dad and have some kind of engineering background, that might be cool if you could tie them both together. But yeah, I mean, my dad's taught me everything about a fuel car and just honestly how to live life and be a good person and be competitive and work hard and, have a good work ethic. So all that kind of comes from him. And I've just tried to carry that through my life, whether it's been school or NASCAR or whatever.
I remember Jimmy reaching out to me when we were just getting started and we had, mild success with Fat Heads, and he was asked me about helping your program out, your car.
Yeah.
And I said, why is he doing, that's a drag racing family. What the hell's he doing over in that car? Is what I thought.
Yeah.
And then I saw him run and I was like, okay, he can drive one of these things very easily. So, but
you're talking about the midget.
Yeah. So stepping out of that back over here, I mean, I know you loved it.
Yeah, I loved the open wheel racing side of things. I'd still do it on off weekends, if I could, and but it's just too much of a risk. We have so many great partners at John Force Racing, and I'd hate to be off screwing around and end up getting hurt. That's why I don't go to the snow. I don't go skiing or snowboarding, because that
stay off of mountain bikes too. I understand.
That typically is the
I knew somebody was going to say it.
Yeah, delay of a race car driver. So I like doing it. I'd really like to race the Chili Bowl this year. I think Force would finally allow me to. So if anybody wants to give me a Chili Bowl ride, I'm ready to rip. We'd load it up, back the trailer up, and Mom would drive it to the track, and we'd go and beat up on all the other kids who were off playing football in between rounds.
Yeah, we didn't have any time for that. We were thinking gears.
The Skinny is brought to you by Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since '04. And American Coach. Innovation is our life force.
We've had a great time here with the Procks. Obviously, Jimmy's been in this game for a long, long time. He's raised two incredible sons that are now finding their success as well inside of the drag racing industry. Thomas sitting right alongside, and obviously Austin, the driver. Let me ask you a quick question. You look a lot like your dad, but is your personality more like your mom?
Yeah, I would say I got my looks from my dad.
Jim?
The personality.
Yeah.
But I definitely sound like a Prock for sure. But
I would agree with the Jill thing.
Yeah.
I would totally agree.
If you want to go back, I really look like my grandmother's side of the family, the Mullins. I definitely fell close to the tree there.
Yeah. Thomas, ever any desire to drive?
No, not really.
So this is a match made in heaven. That's perfect.
No, I was terrible. I tried racing.
Good for you, Jimmy. You don't have to buy two race cars. You can just buy one.
No, it actually all worked out because I got a race car first, and then he decided he wanted to try to drive. and he absolutely hated it. So then he just became my crew chief. So
Yeah,
me and
perfect.
Thomas would work on the race car. Dad would be off winning NHRA races. And
Yeah, as soon as I was 16, I started driving our little trailer to Mini Indy or whatever, so we could go race on Saturdays.
Before that, we'd load it up, back the trailer up, and Mom would drive it to the track, and we'd go and beat up on all the other kids who were off playing football in between rounds.
Yeah, we didn't have any time for that. We were changing gears. And
They'd be like, "Oh, come hang out." It's like, dude, we actually have to work on our. We don't have daddy over
It's
there.
funny you say that. So I use this as an excuse, which is why I had no girlfriends in high school. But I was a guy that always had to change the gears on the sprint car.
Yeah.
So I constantly smelt like gear oil. So I use that as my excuse. So I said, well, I never had a girlfriend.
It's a good call. I like that.
It's funny that you say that, though, because that's what, as racers, that's what you do. That's your weekend. It's, baseball and football. I mean, it was awesome. I played my fair share of it, but boy, once I fell in love with cars, that was all over.
Yeah. It's a lot of work, but it sure is enjoyable.
Yeah, for us, he was gone a lot, so we really, if we wanted to race, we had
up to you guys.
We had to work on it. We couldn't afford.
Yeah,
we could afford cars, but we couldn't afford people to work on the cars. So we had to figure it out. It was one way.
Would you show up back at home, say, Tuesday morning, and all of a sudden there's a midget sitting in the garage?
Well, yeah, we did that. But when we first started racing quarter midgets, I'd never gone in a circle at all. I had to go buy a book.
Yeah, like circle track.
I did.
You call it Grandpa? You didn't call Grandpa and say,
no, we thought, but yeah, well, and call Grandpa. He didn't know. He didn't know anything about all that. He drag race. That was all a long time ago. So I bought a quarter midget book, and then we learned. And then I would not, once we got involved with it, and we started learning, and then they would learn. And then I knew I was going to talk to everybody. I met one or two people along the way that I felt, okay, these guys know what they're doing. And so when we had questions, I would call them, and it took us a couple years. And by the time we were doing it 2 or 3 years, they had done it enough. Well, then they could go do it themselves, right? And then once we were done with quarter midgets, we got a midget, pavement midget, and raced out of Tony's, but we did everything on it. We built the engines. We bought the stuff. And then after that, we tore the engines apart, rebuilt them, changed stuff, built the engines. He built the body. He built the body.
Austin coil,
painted it.
Cardboard. I made cardboard templates and made aluminum molds. And then I wanted it to be carbon fiber. So I made all my own molds for this thing because Aerodyne wanted like 8,500.
Of course they did. Yeah. Right.
And I'm like, I can't afford that. So I spent the time, I hustled all the material, and I built the molds, polished them. And I said, I went around to all the carbon fiber shops. I said, if you guys build this for me for cheap, you can have the molds and you can sell it. I don't care. You can sell as many as you want. I just want one. And it ended up getting a body for like $1,200 or $1,500. And it was beautiful. Fit perfect. Nicest body in the pits.
Awesome. That's great stuff.
Is that the one that's in your garage?
That was another one. Yeah, I always built our own bodies. That one was cool. The last midget we built, we took a Tony Stewart racing sprint car hood, and they were the only ones with it at the time. And I took one off. It was either Levi Jones or Brian Clausen's car at the end of the year. I'm like, hey, can I have this? I want to try and make it fit on this midget. And they're like, yeah, go for it. So I shortened it, seamed it,
made it two pieces.
Yeah, made it 2 pieces instead of one big hood. It was 2 pieces, so you could work on the midget engine easier. And it was beautiful. And we were the only one in the pits with it. Still got it hanging on my wall.
Yeah. Congrats, Dad. You raised up a couple of pretty good kids here, man. I'm lucky for sure. Best of luck here the rest of the year, man. You guys are absolutely killing it. I hope the momentum stays. I know those are waves, man. These things come in waves, and as quickly as you can be on top, you can be swimming trying to get your head up out of the water. So
don't get too excited and don't get too down.
Yeah. I hope we're just riding up a tsunami right now. All the way down.
Get all the way up on top of that dude.
Talk to me in October.
Yeah, you're right. You go through a lot of swings in the season, and now you're racing in all the hot stuff, but it won't, more than likely, not going to be that way in the fall once the sun, the UV starts dropping and all that. The tracks get better again, but just got to learn how to run in all of it and do the best you can,
Congrats, man, on the early success. I hope it stays with you all year long. Hope you guys can go forward and to win a championship as a family. I just can't imagine anything any cooler
we
than
can
that.
manage to do it. It'd be awesome.
Yep. off to a good start.
Close the last couple of years, but
One moment at a time.
Get it done.
Keep your eyes on the Cornwell funny car there, running for John Force Racing. They've been knocking it out of the park so far this year. Thanks to the Procks, Austin, Thomas, Jimmy. Thanks for coming on, guys.
Thanks
Great
for
chat.
having me. Yeah,
Well,
this is fun.
anytime. By the way, I'm just down the road, so hopefully we'll see them again soon. Thanks, Phyllis.
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.